The Four Seasons is a group of 4 violin concerti by Italian composer Antonio Vivaldi, each of which gives a musical expression to a season of the year. They were written about 1723 and were published in 1725 in Amsterdam, together with 8 additional violin concerti, as Il cimento dell'armonia e dell'inventione. The Four Seasons is the best known of Vivaldi's works. Unusually for the time, Vivaldi published the concerti with accompanying poems that elucidated what it was about those seasons that his music was intended to evoke. It provides one of the earliest and most detailed examples of what was later called program music, music with a narrative element. Vivaldi took great pains to relate his music to the texts of the poems, translating the poetic lines themselves directly into the music on the page. In the middle section of the Spring Concerto, where the goatherd sleeps, his barking dog can be marked in the viola section. Other natural occurrences are similarly evoked. Vivaldi separated each concerto into 3 movements, fast, slow, fast, and likewise each linked sonnet into 3 sections. List of concertos and movements. Vivaldi's arrangement is as follows: Concerto No. 1 in E major, Opus 8, RV 269, Spring, Allegro, Largo e pianissimo sempre Allegro pastorale. Concerto No. 2 in G minor, Opus 8, RV 315, Summer, Allegro non molto adagio e piano, Presto e forte, Presto. Concerto No. 3 in F major, Opus 8, RV 293, Autumn, Allegro adagio molto allegro. Concerto No. 4 in F minor, Op. 8, RV 297, Winter, Allegro non molto largo allegro. Sonnets and allusions. There is some debate as to whether the 4 concertos were written to accompany 4 sonnets or vice versa. Though it is not known who wrote these sonnets, there is a theory that Vivaldi wrote them himself, given that each sonnet is broken down into 3 sections, neatly corresponding to a movement in the concerto. Whoever wrote the sonnets, the 4 seasons may be classified as program music, instrumental music that intends to evoke something extra musical, and an art form which Vivaldi was determined to prove sophisticated enough to be taken seriously. In addition to these sonnets, Vivaldi provided instructions such as "The barking dog," "Languor caused by the heat," and "The drunkards have fallen asleep." The Four Seasons is used in the 1981 film The Four Seasons along with other Vivaldi concertos for flute, recordings by Wichita State University chamber players. The 4 concertos each consist of several movements, and the following performances in the year 2000 are by the Wichita State University chamber players, an ensemble of the Wichita Symphony Orchestra. Recording history. The first recording of the Four Seasons is a matter of some dispute. There is a compact disc of one made by the violinist Alfredo Campelli which is taken from acetates of a French radio broadcast. These are thought to date from early in 1939. The first proper electrical recording was made in 1942 by Bernardino Molinari, and though his adaptation is somewhat different from what we have come to expect from modern performances, it is clearly recognizable. This first recording by Molinari was made for Cetra, issued in Italy and subsequently in the United States on 6 double-sided 78s in the 1940s. It was then reissued on long-playing album in 1950, and was once again reissued on compact disc. Not surprisingly, further recordings followed. The next was in 1948 by the violinist Louis Kaufmann, mistakenly credited as the first recording, made during the night in New York using dead studio time and under pressure from a forthcoming musicians' strike. The performers were the Concert Hall Chamber Orchestra under Henry Swoboda, Edith Weissman and Edwin Isberger. This recording helped the repopularization of Vivaldi's music in the mainstream repertoire of Europe and America following on the work done by Molinari and others in Italy. It won the French Grand Prix du Disque in 1950, was elected to the Grammy Hall of Fame in 2002, and in 2003 was selected for the National Recording Registry in the Library of Congress. Kaufman, intrigued to learn that the 4 concertos were in fact part of a set of 12, set about finding a full score and eventually recorded the other 8 concertos in Zurich in 1950, making his the first recording of Vivaldi's complete Op. 8. Music followed in 1955 with the first of several recordings of the 4 seasons with different soloists. The 1955 set with Felix Ayo was that ensemble's first recording of any music. Subsequent iMusic recordings feature Felix Ayo again in 1959, Roberto Michelucci in 1969, Pina Camarelli in 1982, Federico Agostini in 1990, and Mariana Serbu in 1995. The 1969 recording by the Academy of St. Martin in the Fields, conducted by Neville Mariner, featuring soloist Alan Loveday, reputedly moved the piece from the realm of esoterica to that of program and popular staple. I Solisted I Zagreb under the baton of Antonio Janegro with Jan Tommaso as violin soloist and Anton Heiler on the harpsichord followed in 1957 on the Vanguard label, further reissued under the Philips and other labels. Wilfred Howard Mellors OBE, an English music critic, musicologist and composer, wrote about this performance. The soloists phrase the lyricism beautifully. JT wrote about this recording on Hi-Fi Stereo Review. Of all the Vanguard stereo releases, this one is tops. It has everything. Just like London's magnificent release of Petrushka, this recording of Vivaldi's Seasons is so fine it is almost impossible to single out any element of it and call it best. Quote, "Here is matchless ensemble playing, topped by Tommaso's secure playing. Janegro reveals his talent for conducting, which competes with his considerable talent for cello playing. Le Quattro Slagioni emerges as a double triumph, that rare joining of all forces, musical and engineering, to produce a top-notch recording. A credit to the industry, a standard to aim for, an issue to be proud of. I hope Vanguard makes a deal of money with it too, for this is no accident. It took planning and good engineering. The Solomon brothers, who run Vanguard, should be congratulated. Now, if someone will tell certain distributors and dealers that the Seasons does not begin and end with hunting, fishing, baseball, and football, and if the dealers will get as excited as I am, then Vanguard will make profits and make more records with the Zagreb Solista, to make more collectors happy to spend money on such discs. A fine example of a delightful circle. Ivan Supek read about this recording. I will attempt to convey to you how much this performance means to me, and might mean to you as well. My first encounter with the records took place almost 30 years ago, when our Antonio revealed to me the true significance of the piece of another great Antonio, his famous namesake, whose Le Quattro Stagioni. I could hardly listen anymore because of the grand, actually too grand, performances usual at the time, let alone enjoy them. What a change it was, a window into a new world. Music is fast, precise and true to life. The intonation is correct, the continuo appropriate, and the violin of beautiful sound in fitting correlation with the Zagreb soloists. The self-assured and fine tone of Jan Tommaso's solo violin relates perfectly with the soloists. The entire performance is impregnated with the spirit of Janegro's perfectionism, leaving the music and its soul fully exposed. It had been for a long time the only performance I could listen. Only during last decade some new kids, playing authentic instruments, have offered to me similar pleasure and insights into the music of Antonio Vivaldi, and to my great pleasure, Janagro's performance is no longer the only choice for me. In my opinion, this also shows how Janagro's performance in cooperation with the Zagreb soloists was far ahead its time, as corroborated by Igor Stravinsky, who claimed that it was the most beautiful performance of Le Quattro Stagioni he had ever heard, a statement which I only recently learned about. No wonder, since such fairness and precision of Janagro's interpretation must have appealed to him. It was much later that I discovered the excellence of the recording as well. At the time, the Zagreb soloists were recording for Vanguard, mostly in Vienna at various locations, and this particular recording was made in 1957 at Rotenturmstrasse. Recording was produced by Seymour Solomon, chief producer of the entire edition, who would personally come from the USA to oversee every recording to be made by the Zagreb soloists, whereas the Vanguard branch in Vienna, Amadeo, was in charge of the organization. Janagro was a perfectionist, often rather merciless, not only in matters of music but also in terms of the sound, so he participated directly and intensely in recording process, which was quite uncommon at the time. All that great care, by all participants in the project, is amply reflected in the recording itself, resulting in an airy performance of appropriate spaciousness and extension, with only occasional congestion of high tones in forte sections. Paul Shoemaker wrote about this recording, "Nothing I have heard changes my view that the best Seasons ever was performed by Jan Tomaso and Isolista Zagreb and beautifully recorded by the Vanguard at the very beginning of the stereo era. If you have almost every other version of the Seasons, you'll want this one, too. If money and space are no obstacle, it might be worth having." Nigel Kennedy's 1989 recording of the Four Seasons with the English Chamber Orchestra sold over 2 million copies, becoming one of the best-selling classical works ever. Gil Shafim and the Orpheus Chamber Orchestra recorded the Four Seasons as well as a music video for the first movement of Winter that was featured regularly on the Weather Channel in the mid-1990s. The World's Encyclopedia of Recorded Music in 1952 cites only 2 recordings of the Four Seasons, by Molinari and Kaufman. By 2011, approximately 1,000 different recorded versions have been made since Campbell's in 1939. Commensurably, it has become an aspect of these recordings for classical musicians to distinguish the version of the Four Seasons from others, with historically informed performances and embellishments, to the point of varying the instruments and tempi, or playing notes differently from the listener's expectation. It is said that Vivaldi's work presents such opportunities for improvisation. Derivative works of these concerti include arrangements, transcriptions, covers, remixes, samples, and parodies in music, themes in theatre and opera, soundtracks in films, and choreography in ballet, either in their entirety, single movements or medleys. Antonio Vivaldi appears to have started this trend of adapting music from the Four Seasons, and since then it has expanded into many aspects of the performing arts. This contest between harmony and invention now involves various genres around the world. 1726, Vivaldi re-scored his Spring Allegro, both as the opening sinfonia and chorus for his opera Doria in Tempi. Johann Sebastian Bach used the theme of Spring's first movement for the third movement of his cantata Wer weiß wie mir mein Ende. BWV 27, 1739. Nicholas Chedville arranged Vivaldi's Four Seasons for hurdy-gurdy, musette, violin, flute, and continuo. 1765, the French composer Michel Corrette composed and published a choral motet, Laude Dominum de Coelus, subtitled Motet Gratia arrangée dans le concerto de printemps de Vivaldi. The work, for choir and orchestra, consists of the words of Psalm chapter 116 set to the music from Vivaldi's Spring Movement, with vocal soloists singing the solo concerto parts. 1808, Beethoven's Pastoral Symphony contains many of the same themes, including drunken peasants and a storm. Beethoven had acquired a solid grounding in Baroque music from his teacher Albrechtsberger. 1969, the Swingle Singers recorded an album based on Vivaldi's work. 1970, Astor Piazzolla published Estaciones Porteñas, the Four Seasons of Buenos Aires, and these have been included in 8 seasons performances, along with Vivaldi's work, by various artists. 1972, Mo Kaufman recorded a jazz album of Vivaldi's Four Seasons. 1976, the New Cotto Ensemble recorded Vivaldi's Four Seasons on the Cotto instruments. 1978, Michael Franks composed a vocal serenade based on the theme of Vivaldi's Summer Concerto. This was subsequently covered by Wung San in 2010. 1982, Patrick Gleason recorded a computer realization of Vivaldi's Four Seasons. 1984, Thomas Wilbrand composed and recorded the Electric V, which interprets Vivaldi's work with ambient electronics, vocals, and samples of the original concerti. Roland Petty choreographed a ballet to an iMusic performance of Vivaldi's work. 1987, Benched produced a scenic tour of nature with Vivaldi's Four Seasons. 1990, a MIDI arrangement of Concerto No. 1 in D major by Passport Designs was included with Windows 3.0. 1993, Jean-Pierre Rampal recorded arrangements of Vivaldi's Four Seasons for flute. 1995, Arnie Roth recorded the Four Seasons Suite, including sonnets. This may or may not be considered a derivative work, depending on whether Vivaldi's translated sonnets were meant to be narrated with the music. 1997, the Baronics recorded surf guitar versions of the violin concertos in Vivaldi's Four Seasons. French musician Jacques Lussier composed and recorded, with his trio, jazz swing interpretations of the Four Seasons. 1998, the Great Cat recorded a shred guitar version of Vivaldi's Summer Presto. Vanessa May recorded her crossover version of Vivaldi's Summer Presto for electric violin. 1999, the Chinese Baroque players recorded arrangements of Vivaldi's Four Seasons for traditional Chinese instruments. Petrova and Amp Tikhonov performed the long program to a medley of Vivaldi's seasons to win the European Figure Skating Championships. 2000, Venice Harp Quartet recorded arrangements of Vivaldi's Four Seasons for harp ensemble. Gustavo Montesano recorded a tango guitar version of the Spring Allegro with the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. Jochen Brush and Amp Sven Ingvard Mikkelsen recorded arrangements of Vivaldi's Four Seasons for violin and organ. 2001, Bond recorded 2 singles based on Vivaldi's Winter, with electric strings, vocals, and electronic beats. They similarly interpreted a movement from each season for Peugeot car advertisements. Furhan and Amp Thurzanonda recorded a transcription of the Four Seasons for 2 pianos by Anton Tomislav Saban. Banya recorded a dance version of Vivaldi's Winter for the Pump It Up video game. Susan Osborne recorded a New Age vocal serenade based on Vivaldi's Winter Largo. The Charades recorded Vivaldi's Presto as Summer Twist for surf guitar ensemble. An electronic cover of the song was recorded by Takayuki Ishikawa with the title V for the rhythm game Beatmania IIDX 5th style. The song has become one of the most popular in the series, being included in every release since its debut. 2003 Red Priest recorded arrangements of Vivaldi's Four Seasons for recorder. Hayley Westenra adapted the musical piece called Winter into a song titled River of Dreams, which is sung in English. It was recorded for her Pure album in July 10, 2004. Tafel Music arranged a cross-cultural arts special based on Vivaldi's Four Seasons, involving a Chinese pipa, Indian sarangi and Inuit throat singing. 2005 Darkmoor recorded an electric guitar version of Vivaldi's Winter, and this was later integrated into the Finnish video game Frets on Fire. 2006 Juliet Pochin volumed an operatic suite of sonnets to Vivaldi's Four Seasons on her debut album. Accentuous Chamber Choir recorded a choral version of Vivaldi's Concerto for Winter. Stéphane Lambiel performed his long program to a medley of Vivaldi's seasons to win the World Figure Skating Championships. 2007 Celtic Woman recorded the Winter Largo with vocals. The youngest former member Chloe Agnew originally recorded it for her Walking in the Air album, which was released in 2002. Basadu performed an arrangement of Vivaldi's Winter for marimbas with chamber orchestra. Mauro Bigonzetti choreographed a ballet of Vivaldi's Les Quatre Saisons for a French-Canadian dance company. Tim Slade directed a documentary of four classical violinists and their homelands, as they relate to Vivaldi's Four Seasons. Seoul Metropolitan Traditional Music Orchestra performed complete concertos with arrangement for Korean Traditional Music Orchestra by Seong-gi Kim. It was recorded live and released with CD from Sinaro Music same year. 2008's Vesony and Amp Dvorak produced both an album and stage production of world music based on Vivaldi's Four Seasons. Yves Cousteau recorded a rock and amp roll, one-man band version of the Spring Allegro. Daisy Joplin recorded a violin and amp hip-hop version of Vivaldi's Winter, and also performs it reggae style. Inessa Timochko performed her crossover version of Vivaldi's Summer Presto for violin. Wes Bolton recorded a cover version of Vivaldi's Winter based on the Japanese video game Beatmania Remix. Patrick Chan performed his long program to a medley of Vivaldi's seasons to win the Canadian Figure Skating Championships. 2009 Absinthe Against Anguish produced an electronic version of Vivaldi's Four Seasons. Riccardo Arrigoni recorded Vivaldi's Four Seasons for solo piano in the style of jazz. Christophe Maniot recorded ambient jazz interpretations of Vivaldi's Four Seasons. Christian Blind recorded a surf guitar acid rock version of Vivaldi's Spring Allegro. Soda Green launched their Vivaldi project, and began to release a series of 4 pop albums based on the image of Vivaldi's Four Seasons: Spring, Daylight, Summer, Fever, Autumn, Story and Winter, Endless. The project was completed in 2015 with the release of the 4th album. 2010 Art Color Ballet performed their 4 Elements show to Vivaldi's Summer Presto, arranged by Hadrian Philip Tabecki. David Garrett recorded a crossover version of Vivaldi's Winter, combining classical violin with modern rock music. 2011 Blacksmith performed Vivaldi's Summer Presto in the style of thrash metal music. Angels performed the crossover version of Vivaldi's Summer Presto for electric strings. St. Peterisi Silla performed her crossover version of Vivaldi's Summer Presto for piano. Lionel Valbom remixed Vivaldi's Summer Presto with VST synths. Tim Cliffway performed Vivaldi's Spring Allegro as a crossover of world music styles. 2012 German-born British composer Max Richter created a postmodern and minimalist recomposition released as Recomposed Vivaldi, The Four Seasons. Working with solo violinist Daniel Hope, Richter discarded around 75% of the original source material while the running time was reduced to 44 minutes playing time. Aura recorded an a cappella arrangement of Vivaldi's Four Seasons, and had also performed Vivaldi's Spring Chorus on a prior album. Sinfonati performed Vivaldi's Four Seasons for electric guitar orchestra. Bachar Chermov produced a MIDI recording and amp animation of Vivaldi's Winter. Tornado Classic performed Vivaldi's Summer Presto with electric guitar and slap bass. The symphonic rock band Trans-Siberian Orchestra used a portion of the first movement of the Winter Concerto in the song Dreams of Fireflies on the Dreams of Fireflies EP. The song also uses a portion of Mozart's Der Hellrauch in meinem Herzen, which it had used previously. 2013 Richard Galliano recorded Vivaldi's Four Seasons concertos for accordion, as well as a few of his opera arias on the instrument. Vito Paternoster recorded Vivaldi's Le Quattro Stagioni in the form of sonatas for cello. Periodic produced a mix of Vivaldi's Four Seasons, which incorporates electronica with samples of the classical version. Stephen Buchanan produced a tetralogy of mid-seasons from Vivaldi's program music. 2014 The Piano Guys recorded a crossover between Vivaldi's Winter and Let It Go from Disney's Frozen. The members of the group made an arrangement for piano and cello, along with the original composition of Winter included in Fantasia. Music evolved. There are also two mixes, the alt-rock mix and the Steve Porter mix. 2015 Nihad Hustanbergovich recorded Vivaldi's Four Seasons concertos for solo accordion. Zephyr Records. Zos Amorek and Adrian Simeoni recorded Le Quattro Stagioni with electric guitar and acoustic guitar. Astrono Music. Lupe Fiasco's songs Summer, Fall, Winter, and Amp Spring on his album Tetsuo and Amp Youth.